The 2 lines on the pregnancy test were sharp, distinct, and they made Natalie Brooks's heart pound against her ribs. She was sitting on the cold tile floor of her bathroom, her back pressed against the wall, trying to breathe. 7 weeks. That's how long she'd been late. 7 weeks of telling herself it was just stress from her demanding marketing job. 7 weeks of quiet, desperate hope that it was anything but this.
Ow.
But now, holding the proof in her shaking hand, she couldn't deny it. She was pregnant. A whirlwind of emotions spun through her. There was fear, sharp and cold, but also a tiny, persistent flutter of joy. A baby. Her and Tyler's baby. They'd been together for almost a year, a whirlwind romance that had swept her off her feet. He was everything she wasn't told. Money, powerful family, a future that was practically written in gold. And she was. Well, she was just Natalie. She'd met him at a charity gala. She was working. In a moment of pure clumsiness, she'd spilled a glass of red wine all over his ridiculously expensive suit. But instead of getting angry, he'd just laughed, this deep, warm laugh, and asked for her number. He was different. He was kind and attentive, and he made her feel seen. This wasn't planned, not at all, but she was sure he would understand. They were in love. They would figure this out together. Natalie pushed herself up from the floor, splashing cold water on her face. In the mirror, her green eyes looked back at her, tired but hopeful. Tonight, she would tell him tonight. They had a dinner reservation at the very same seafood restaurant where they had their first date. It felt perfect, like closing a circle and starting a new one. The rest of the afternoon at work was a blur. She couldn't focus on spreadsheets or campaign pitches. Her mind kept drifting. Would they get married? Where would they live? Her tiny 1-bedroom apartment suddenly felt microscopic. But Tyler had resources. He had a whole world she was just beginning to step into. They would make it work. That's what people in love did. Back at home, she put on the green dress Tyler always said brought out the color of her eyes. She was just finishing her lipstick when the doorbell rang. That was odd. Tyler was never early. He was always precisely on time, a habit he'd picked up in boarding school. She opened the door, a smile on her face, but it froze when she saw who was standing in her hallway. It wasn't Tyler. It was his mother, Victoria Hunt. Victoria was a woman carved from ice. In her early 50s, she was always flawlessly dressed, her posture ramrod straight. Today, she wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Natalie's rent for the year. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a severe twist, and her eyes. Her eyes were like a winter frost, holding zero warmth. "Mrs. Hunt," Natalie said, her voice catching with surprise. "Tyler isn't here yet. We're meeting for dinner." "I know exactly where my son is," Victoria said, her voice as crisp as her suit. She stepped past Natalie into the apartment without waiting for an invitation, placing a leather briefcase on the small dining table. "I'm here to speak with you, Miss Brooks. Alone." Natalie closed the door slowly, a knot of dread tightening in her stomach. "Is something wrong? Is Tyler okay?" "My son is fine," Victoria replied, her tone dismissing the question entirely. She remained standing, forcing Natalie to look up at her. "But we have a situation that needs to be handled. Discreetly. I don't understand." Victoria opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick manila envelope. "I'm aware that you're pregnant," she stated matter-of-factly. The blood drained from Natalie's face. How could she possibly know? She had gone to a pharmacy on the complete other side of town, paid in cash. Victoria must have seen the shock on her face because she continued, "I have connections at every medical facility and pharmacy in this city. When you purchased that test yesterday, I was informed within the hour." Natalie's voice was barely a whisper. "I was going to tell Tyler tonight. That won't be necessary," Victoria said, her tone sharp. She slid the envelope across the table. "Inside is a check for $200,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. It's more than enough for you to relocate, have the baby somewhere quiet, and start fresh, without burdening my son with this. Complication. Complication." The word ignited a spark of anger through Natalie's shock. "This is his child. We love each other." Victoria let out a short, bitter laugh that held no humor. "Love. Oh, my dear girl. Tyler was infatuated with you. You were a brief, entertaining distraction from his responsibilities. but he has a future that's been planned for years. There's a merger with the Ashford Hotel Group, which includes an understanding with their daughter, Catherine. This pregnancy threatens everything he's worked so hard for. He would never agree to this, Natalie said, her voice trembling. If he knew he would want this baby, he would want me. He does know. Victoria's voice dropped, quiet and deadly. And with those 3 simple words, Natalie's world fractured. I spoke with Tyler this morning. I told him about your condition, and I asked him what he wanted me to do. Natalie couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. A sob was lodged in her throat, choking her. Do you know what he said? Victoria asked, her gaze unwavering. He said, "Make it go away, Mother." I can't deal with this right now. You're lying, Natalie whispered, tears finally welling in her eyes. It had to be a lie. The Tyler she knew wouldn't do this. Without a word, Victoria pulled out her phone and pressed a button. And then his voice, Tyler's voice, filled the tiny apartment. It was clear and unmistakable. I can't be tied down with a kid right now, Mother. My career is taking off. The Ashford deal is critical. Just handle it. To offer her whatever it takes to disappear. The recording clicked off. Silence. The floor seemed to drop out from under Natalie's feet. The man she loved, the man she thought she was building a future with, had just dismissed her and their unborn child as an inconvenient problem. Something to be handled, something to make disappear. Take the money, Victoria said, her tone softening almost imperceptibly. Start over somewhere new. Give the child a good life, free from the complications of fighting my family. Because if you try to pursue this legally, I assure you, my lawyers will destroy you. Your career, your reputation, everything you have, I am giving you a dignified exit. I suggest you take it. She walked to the door, then paused, her hand on the knob. You have 24 hours to sign the agreement? After that, the offer dropped significantly. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Natalie alone in the ruins of her life. The envelope on the table felt like a bomb. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Tyler. Asterisk running late, babe. Can you meet me at the restaurant? Asterisk. She stared at his name on the screen, a wave of nausea washing over her. She pressed her thumb to the screen and blocked his number without a second thought. Moving like a zombie, she pulled her old suitcase from the top of her closet. She packed only the essentials. Clothes, documents, a small box of her mother's jewelry. She left behind everything Tyler had ever given her, the expensive necklace, the diamond earrings. They felt like shackles now. Before she left, she walked over to the dining table. She took the pregnancy test, the 2 stark lines that had once held so much hope, and placed it directly on top of Victoria's cursed envelope. That was her answer. By midnight, Natalie was on a bus heading north, the city lights fading behind her like a bad dream. She was going to Havenport, a small coastal town where her Aunt Claire lived. Claire ran a cozy little bookshop cafe there. Natalie had called her, sobbing and barely able to speak. Her aunt's voice was the lifeline she desperately needed. Come home, sweetheart, she'd said. Just come home. I'll take care of you. As the bus moved through the dark countryside, Natalie placed a hand on her still flat stomach. In that moment, she made a silent promise to the tiny life growing inside her. She would be strong enough for both of them. She would build a new life from these ashes. She would prove to them, and more importantly to herself, that she didn't need Tyler Hunt or his family's blood money. Ahead of her lay a world of uncertainty. But for the first time in hours, she also felt a flicker of possibility. She closed her eyes and let the tears finally fall, washing away the naive girl she had been and making room for the woman and the mother she would now have to become. Havenport welcomed Natalie like a warm embrace. This small coastal town was everything the city was not. Quiet streets lined with old oak trees, neighbors who waved from their porches, and the constant, calming sound of waves breaking against the rocky shore. Her Aunt Claire's bookshop cafe sat right on Main Street, a cozy 2-story building with blue shutters and window boxes bursting with flowers. The apartment above the shop quickly became Natalie's sanctuary. The first few months were the hardest. Morning sickness hit her like clockwork, and some nights the loneliness felt like a physical weight pressing down on her chest. She would lie in bed, one hand resting on her growing belly, wondering if she'd really made the right choice. But then the baby would kick a tiny, insistent flutter of life that reminded her exactly why she had left, and all the doubt would just fade away. Claire never pushed Natalie to talk about what happened. Instead, She just folded her niece into the daily rhythm of the bookshop. Natalie helped customers, organized inventory, and learned how to make the cafe's signature lavender lattes. The work was simple, but it was healing. The regular customers became familiar faces, offering gentle smiles and quiet words of encouragement as her belly grew rounder. Then, on a crisp October morning, Natalie gave birth to a daughter. She named her Lily Claire Brooks, after the flowers her aunt adored and the woman who had given her a home when she had nowhere else to turn. When the nurse placed Lily in her arms for the very first time, Natalie felt her heart expand in ways she never knew were possible. This tiny person, with her dark curls and perfect little fingers, was worth everything she had lost. The town rallied around the new mother. Neighbors brought over casseroles and baby clothes. Claire converted a dusty old storage room into a beautiful nursery. Dr. Margaret Webb, the town's only pediatrician, even did house calls to check on Lily. Natalie had expected to feel completely alone, but instead, she found herself surrounded by a community that cared, simply because that's what good people did. As Lily grew from a tiny newborn into a smiling baby who could sit up on her own, Natalie started to feel a little restless. She loved working at the bookshop, but she needed something that was truly hers, something she could build for Lily's future. So late at night, after Lily was asleep, Natalie would sit at her small kitchen table and sketch designs for jewelry. It was a hobby she had abandoned years ago during her relationship with Tyler, something he had called cute but impractical. Using her modest savings and skills she learned from online tutorials, Natalie began creating handmade jewelry. She used sea glass she collected from Havenport's beaches, combining it with delicate silver wire and tiny shells to make unique, beautiful pieces. Each necklace and bracelet told a story of the ocean, of resilience, of finding beauty in things that were once broken. Claire let her sell a few pieces in the bookshop on consignment. To Natalie's surprise, they sold out within days. Encouraged, Natalie launched an online shop she called Sea Glass Stories. She photographed her work against the stunning backdrop of Havenport's coastline and wrote descriptions that captured the emotion behind each piece. Her first month, she made 12 sales. The second month, 40. By the time Lily turned 1, Natalie had more orders than she could possibly fill on her own. So, she hired 2 local women who needed flexible work, teaching them her techniques. The small operation moved from her kitchen table to a proper workshop space that Claire helped her rent on the edge of town. Sea Glass Stories became known for jewelry that carried real meaning. Pieces that people bought not just because they were beautiful, but because they represented transformation and new beginnings. Everything changed on a random Tuesday afternoon. A lifestyle blogger with 2 million followers purchased a necklace from Sea Glass Stories and posted a photo of herself wearing it. The caption read, "Sometimes the most beautiful things are created from what the world discarded. This piece reminds me that broken doesn't mean worthless." The post went viral. Orders flooded Natalie's shop. Her story, the single mother creating art from sea glass in a small coastal town, resonated with people everywhere. News outlets started picking it up. Within weeks, Sea Glass Stories had been featured in 3 major magazines and on a morning television show. Investors reached out. Corporate buyers wanted to carry her line in their stores. Natalie felt completely overwhelmed by the sudden attention. But Claire was there to keep her grounded. "Success doesn't change who you are unless you let it," her aunt said wisely. One particular email stood out from the flood of business inquiries. It was from a man named Gabriel Stone, the founder of Stone Enterprises, a company that invested in small businesses with strong ethical foundations. Unlike the other corporate messages, his was personal and thoughtful. He wrote about how his own mother had been a single parent who built a catering business from nothing. He said he admired what Natalie had created and wanted to discuss a potential partnership that would let her expand while keeping full creative control. They met at the Bookshop Cafe on a sunny morning. Gabriel Stone was not what Natalie had expected. He was in his mid-30s, tall, with kind brown eyes and an easy smile that lit up his whole face. He wore jeans and a simple sweater, a world away from the expensive suits Tyler had always favored. He'd even brought a little toy for Lily and spent the first 10 minutes playing peekaboo with her, before they even mentioned business. "I don't believe in taking over companies," Gabriel explained as they sat with their coffees. "I believe in helping good people do what they do best, just on a bigger scale. You keep your vision, your team, your values. I provide the resources, the distribution channels, and the business expertise. We grow together. Natalie found herself trusting him in a way she hadn't trusted anyone since Tyler. Gabriel was genuine. He asked about her inspiration, her goals, what kind of legacy she wanted to build for Lily. He understood that Sea Glass Stories wasn't just a business for her. It was proof that she had not only survived, but thrived. Just as Natalie was seriously considering Gabriel's partnership offer, her carefully rebuilt world was shaken. She was featured in a national business magazine, with a photo of her holding Lily in the workshop, surrounded by her jewelry. The article called her a true success story, a young entrepreneur who had turned hardship into triumph. The morning after the article was published, her phone rang. It was a blocked number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Natalie. Tyler's voice hit her like a punch to the stomach. I saw the article. I can't believe what you've built, what you've accomplished. She should have hung up right then. Instead, she stood frozen in her workshop, 2 years of buried emotions rushing to the surface. You look happy, Tyler continued. And Lily, she's beautiful. She has your eyes. Why are you calling? Natalie finally managed, her voice steadier than she felt. I made a mistake, Tyler said quietly. The biggest mistake of my life. I let my mother manipulate me. I let fear control my choices. I should have fought for you, for us. I'm calling because I want to make this right. I want to be part of Lily's life, and part of your life. Natalie looked at her daughter, playing with wooden blocks in the corner of the workshop, completely unaware that the man who shared her DNA was on the phone. She thought about the sleepless nights, the fear, the strength she had been forced to find all on her own. She thought about Gabriel's kind eyes, and how he had never once made her feel less than extraordinary. It's too late, Tyler, she said softly. You can't just appear now that it's convenient for you, now that I've proven I don't need you. Please, he said, and for the first time, she heard real desperation in his voice. Just let me explain. Let me see her. I'm her father. Before Natalie could even respond, the workshop door opened. Gabriel walked in carrying takeout lunch, his smile fading the moment he saw her face and realized something was terribly wrong. I have to go, Natalie said into the phone. Wait, I'm coming to Havenport, Tyler said quickly. We need to talk face to face. Yo, you owe me that much. I don't owe you anything, Natalie replied, and ended the call. Gabriel set down the food and looked at her with concern. Are you okay? Natalie realized she was shaking. That was Lily's father. He wants back in our lives. Gabriel's expression darkened, but his voice remained gentle. What do you want? It was such a simple question, but no one had asked her that in so long. What did she want? She looked at Lily, then at Gabriel, then at the workshop filled with the beauty she had created from broken pieces. I want to move forward, she said finally. Not backward. But even as she said it, Natalie had a sinking feeling that the past wasn't finished with her yet. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time. 3 days after Tyler's phone call, a sleek black car pulled up right outside the bookshop. Natalie was in the children's corner, reading to Lily, when the bell above the door chimed. She glanced up, and her heart just stopped. It was Tyler Hunt, standing right there in the doorway, looking exactly like she remembered him. That expensive suit, the perfectly styled hair, that air of pure confidence, but his eyes. Something was different. They held a deep sadness she'd never seen before. Hello, Natalie, he said, his voice quiet. Lily looked up from her book, her big, innocent eyes full of curiosity about this new person. Instinctively, Natalie pulled her daughter closer. Just then, Claire emerged from behind the counter, her aunt's senses tingling. She went straight into protective mode. You need to leave, Claire said firmly. Please, Tyler begged, his voice cracking just a little. Just give me 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking for. Natalie felt completely torn. A huge part of her wanted to just throw him out, to protect the peaceful life she had painstakingly built for herself and Lily. But another part, the part that had once loved him so deeply, needed to hear what he had to say. Claire, Natalie said softly, can you take Lily upstairs for a bit? Her aunt nodded, scooping up the toddler who gave her mom a little wave goodbye. Once they were alone, Natalie gestured to a small table by the window. They sat across from each other, feeling like total strangers, and in many ways they were. Tyler was the first to speak, his words tumbling out in a rush. I didn't know my mother went to see you that day, I swear, Natalie. She told me you had taken money and just left. She said you wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. She even showed me a signed agreement. Swear, with your signature on it. She forged it, Natalie stated, her voice icy cold. I know that now, Tyler said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. It took me months to piece together what really happened. By then, you had just vanished. I hired investigators to find you, but you had covered your tracks so well. I didn't want to be found, she replied. I understand that now, Tyler said, his eyes filled with a regret so deep it was almost tangible. I failed you in the worst way possible. I let my mother control my life. I chose my career and my family's expectations over the woman I loved. I was a coward. Tears pricked at Natalie's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You hurt me in ways I didn't even know were possible. When I needed you the most, you abandoned us. I know, Tyler whispered, and I have regretted it every single day since. When I saw your picture in that magazine holding our daughter, our daughter, I realized what I had thrown away. You built an entire empire from nothing. You're strong, you're successful, you're an amazing mother. You became everything I should have helped you become. Natalie was exhausted. What do you want from me, Tyler? A chance, he said, his voice full of desperation. A chance to be Lily's father. A chance to prove that I've changed. I've left the family business. I'm starting my own company, doing work that actually matters. I've been in therapy, working through all my issues with control and family pressure. I am not the same man who let you walk away. Before Natalie could even think of a response, the door chimed again. It was Gabriel, carrying a fresh bouquet of flowers for the shop's weekly delivery. He stopped short when he saw Tyler, and his friendly expression immediately hardened. Gabriel asked, his tone protective as he moved to stand beside Natalie. Tyler stood up, sizing up the other man. And you are? Gabriel Stone? He replied calmly. A friend. Something unspoken passed between the two men. It was like Tyler's shoulders slumped just a tiny bit, as if he suddenly realized what Gabriel represented in Natalie's new life. I should go, Tyler said quietly. But Natalie, please, think about what I said. I want to be part of Lily's life. She deserves to know her father. After he left, Natalie felt completely drained. Gabriel sat down across from her, his concern obvious. Are you considering letting him back in? He asked gently. I don't know what I'm considering, Natalie admitted. He seems genuinely sorry, and Lily does deserve to know where she came from. Gabriel reached across the table and took her hand. Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But Natalie, you need to know something. These past few months, getting to know you and Lily, they've been the best of my life. You're not just a business investment to me. There's so much more. The next morning brought yet another unexpected visitor. Natalie was just opening the workshop when a fancy town car pulled up. Victoria Hunt stepped out. Not for the first time Natalie had ever seen her. The woman looked uncertain. Her usual perfect, icy composure was cracked. Her eyes were readrimmed as if she'd been crying all night. Mrs. Hunt, Natalie said, physically blocking the workshop entrance. Please, Victoria said, her voice completely lacking its usual commanding tone. I know I have no right to ask, but I need to see her. My granddaughter. You paid me to disappear, Natalie said harshly, the memory still raw. You called my child a complication. Why on earth would I let you anywhere near her? At that, Victoria's whole facade crumbled. Tears streamed down her face, because I was wrong. So terribly, terribly wrong. I thought I was protecting my son, but I destroyed his chance at happiness. I destroyed a family before it could even begin. Tyler told me everything. How miserable he's been, how he's been searching for you all this time. I came to beg for your forgiveness. Natalie just stared at this broken version of the woman who had once terrified her. Your forgiveness won't change what happened, I know, Victoria said quietly. But I'm asking anyway, not for me, but for my granddaughter. She shouldn't have to pay for my mistakes. That evening, Natalie sat on the beach with Gabriel, while Lily played happily in the sand nearby. She told him everything, about Tyler's plea, Victoria's tears, and the impossible choices she was now facing. What does your heart tell you? Gabriel asked. My heart is confused, Natalie admitted. Part of me wants to forgive them, to give Lily the big family she deserves. But another part of me remembers how they made me feel so completely worthless. Gabriel picked up a piece of sea glass from the sand, holding it up. It was smooth and beautiful. You know what I love about your jewelry? You take broken things and you make them into something new and beautiful. Not by pretending they were never broken, but by honoring what they went through to become what they are. Maybe people deserve that same chance. Natalie looked at him, at this kind, wonderful man who had shown her what real love looked like. Love that was patient and kind, that didn't demand or control. Love that celebrated her strength instead of trying to diminish it. I'm falling in love with you, she said, the word surprising even herself. Gabriel smiled, that warm, genuine smile that always made her feel safe. I fell in love with you the first time I saw you laugh with Lily in that magazine photo. I saw a woman who had turned her pain into purpose, who had built beauty from brokenness. In the weeks that followed, Natalie made her decisions carefully, one step at a time. She allowed Tyler supervise visits with Lily, watching as he awkwardly learned how to be a father. He was clumsy at first, unsure how to play or comfort a toddler, but he tried. And that effort, she realized, meant something. Victoria came once a month, always bringing thoughtful gifts, and, more importantly, always respecting Natalie's boundaries. She was slowly learning how to be a grandmother, not a matriarch. But Natalie's heart belonged to Gabriel. They made their partnership official both in business and in life. Gabriel proposed on that very same beach where they'd had their first real conversation, with a giggling Lily helping him present the ring. I'm not trying to replace anyone, Gabriel said, as he knelt in the sand. I just want to be part of your story, part of your family. Will you marry me? Through happy tears, Natalie said yes. A year later, Natalie stood in her expanded workshop. She now employed 20 people from Havenport. See, Glass Stories had become a nationally recognized brand, but it was still rooted in the small town that had embraced her when she needed it most. Tyler had become a reliable presence in Lily's life, a father who was earning his place, day by day. Victoria had softened, finding a new purpose in being a doting grandmother. But it was Gabriel who woke up beside Natalie every morning. Gabriel who read bedtime stories to Lily. Gabriel who understood that real love means supporting someone's dreams, not controlling them. As Natalie created a new necklace from a beautiful piece of sea glass, she thought about her incredible journey. From heartbreak to healing, from broken to beautiful, she had learned that she never needed rescuing. She had rescued herself. And in doing so, she had built a life richer and more wonderful than any she could have ever imagined. Just then, Lily ran into the workshop, her curls bouncing, calling for her mama. Gabriel followed, laughing at something the little girl had just said. This was her family that was chosen, earned, and real. Natalie had gotten her revenge, but not through bitterness or anger. She had gotten it by succeeding, by thriving, and by proving to the world and to herself that she was more than enough all along. And that was the sweetest victory of all. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.